is the Grove Podcast.
Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 178 of the Grove Podcast. Now, thank you for listening and the Arsenal that we all know and love are back. And boy, we have missed you. And how nice was it to watch a game, enjoy a game that we dominated, played very good football, scored goals, no injuries that we know of, and we rested players. And that was fun and stress-free and night and day compared to Newcastle the previous weeks. And our hearts and blood pressures are very grateful for it. And all it took was a tactical masterstroke by Arteta, which was to have Bukayo Saka play and not be injured. Genius. Who knew, hey? So there we go. Well done, Mikel. Look, anyway, so in today's show, we will be looking back at Arsenal 3, Fulham 0, and then we will look ahead to the Champions League semi-final second leg against Atlético Madrid. Yet another, I was trying to be all Spanish there for a second. Yet another massive game for us in this plethora of massive games at the end of the season. And joining me today to help me look through yesterday and next Tuesday is Andy. How are you? And how much do you think we're going to be able to sell MLS for in the summer after that shop window performance yesterday?
I'm going to take that one and the joke that it was intended to have. But yeah, I'm good. I'm absolutely brilliant. It was a shame not to see you yesterday, but I'm sure we'll definitely make up for that on Tuesday with a few sunny pints at the 12 pins.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, on MLS, I was so surprised they started, and that's kind of where the positivity for the day kind of snowballed from. I mean, and I guess not just started, but started in midfield. I'd have put good money on seeing Zubimendi in there. And yeah, I think from the first couple of minutes, the first 5 minutes, the thing that struck me, and I think I messaged you even halfway through, maybe it was 10 or 15 minutes in, it was just how different the midfield felt with him there, and kind of him and Rice choosing when to one of them sit and one of them would go, and he felt like he was everywhere, and does it solidify his future at Arsenal? I mean, it certainly does his chances no harm at all, because I think we were all pretty worried. For those of us that love him, we're all pretty worried, because I think it's clear that he doesn't really have a future in Mikel's eyes at left back. Even though he played really well there last season, it did feel like he'd kind of been found out a little bit playing at left back. But in terms of taking up that starting kind of left 8 role, I say left 8, it was kind of him and Rice kind of very much interchanged from what they were doing, especially in that first half. But yeah, taking up that kind of starting position in the midfield, he looked really, really, really good. Ball carrying, something that I think we've mentioned it a couple of times, we've been crying out for, and he just gives us that and so much more. He brings in the kind of passing, the physical side was there. Even yesterday we seen him pressing, and I was so pleased to see someone that's came through the ranks and then had a bit of a setback, and then not let that kind of... Well, it seemed yesterday, it just took his chance with his arms wide open and played incredibly well, which I guess asks, which I'm sure we'll get to, kind of asks some potentially interesting questions for Tuesday's lineup.
No, indeed. You messaged me, what the fuck is this? Playing superb. That's what you messaged me. I was joking, tongue in cheek, but there was talk that given the season he's had, he's struggled. Hincapie's come in, so he went from first choice left back to third choice left back, and when he has played, we have to be honest here, he's not been pulling up any trees. He's struggled. Whether that's not having a momentum, not having enough minutes, whatever it is, but he has struggled, and he's had that difficult second season, and it's a massive high to you'd expect some sort of lows, but maybe in a way this is really good for his development, to deal with the adversity and then to be able to come through that and still do what he did yesterday at such a young age is a real positive. And I saw the interview on Sky afterwards that I saw it on the socials, and he handled it really well, and I think he acknowledged that, and it's all about taking your opportunity, taking the chance, taking that chance. So I think it's it's excellent for him. I see you're right. The positivity is, he's one of our own, type thing. We always love to see it. And I did make that joke about, selling him, but because the talk was there, that, where is he going to fit? We always have these players say, well, let's put him in midfield. We did it with Zinchenko. Hey, play him in midfield. He's so good, and all the rest of it. We always say, could whoever back in the past, he could play our defensive midfield, or who could he do this? Could he do that? So we always try and fit players in that we like to make them fit into the team. So no, I think so it was tongue in cheek. Say, well, him and Winery, they're potential sells for next year. We've been rubbish at selling. We want to make some money. These are difficult questions, and we always complain about our selling ability because we don't want to sell the players we like. But the ones we like are good, and the ones that are good, we make money off. But that's a story for the summer. But you're right. I mean, I had a look at his stats. He had 64 out of 66 accurate passes, so 97%. Touches 78, passes into final third 4, ball recovery 6. He created 1 chance, and they're really, for a 19-year-old playing centre mid for the first time, those are very good stats. And you compare that to Rice, Rice had third of the 2/3 of a game rather than a full game. Rice was 92% pass accuracy, 57 of 62. He had 74 touches. Pass into final third 7, ball recovery 6, and he had a brilliant game yesterday. So, he was really, really good. The one thing we do have to caveat in a way, and it's hard. I want to caveat, but I don't want to take the joy away from the performance. It's one game, and it was Fulham, okay. But what you could tell is the potential is there. It is absolutely there, and to go from backup left back to centre midfield, and it's a massive game. We can't be dropping points. This is not Fulham in October. This is not someone else. This is 4 games to go, win or bust, and he's playing centre midfield. And look, he's got things to work on. He still gives me the heebie-jeebies when he does his trademark shielding the ball, fall over. As long as he doesn't do it in dangerous areas, I'm fine with it. So and he's got things to work on, but for a 19-year-old to do what he did yesterday in such an important game, I really enjoyed it, and surprised.
That could be one of the benefits of him playing at left back is, like when he's kind of shielding that ball and he falls over, especially with a ref like yesterday. I couldn't quite tell what that ref was going to give and what he wasn't going to give, and certainly across the league, there's a few refs like that. So when that's one of his tactics, to sometimes get out of the pressure, to just go down, you don't know if you're going to be then counter-attacked on and you're leaving your defence exposed. And potentially just by playing that season, or not season, but kind of those string of games at left back, maybe it has just taught him a slight bit more of maturity, which will only serve him well as he kind of moves forward. But I think you're saying about him moving into midfield. I mean, I think it is important just to remember the shift to left back was the shift in his play. Like when he came through when he came through all the kind of the youth level and the various the youth teams at Arsenal, and I think England as well, he's always played in midfield. So it is, and I think he even referenced that it's actually his more natural position. And I think from left back he was stepping into midfield, but it is a different role compared to actually starting in midfield and being able to kind of go all over the pitch and knit things together. So it did surprise me, to be honest, how much of it seemed like a duck to water he took it yesterday and how quickly. But then I did just remind myself, it's kind of like, well, it's probably more him playing at left back that was the exception, and that'll explain why he just played so well yesterday, because it was probably a lot like just getting back into his comfort zone.
Yeah, but there's a difference between playing midfield at youth level than to play the Premier League level, no matter who the opposition is, Yeah. But he said, "Look, I just want to say thank you to the boss and the players for putting their trust in me. I feel like I needed to be ready today, and I'm glad they took the chance. I loved it." And Arteta said, he has the ability to play in every position. He's so gifted. He had to wait and be humble, which is not easy with what he did this season before. Today, he got rewarded for his behaviour, and again, 19. It's nuts, and I think what also helped is maybe the recent slight change in formation and tactic in our midfield, where you got Rice sitting, at the 6 role, being a bit more bit more of a six, even though they did dovetail. They would sometimes swap, and Lewis Skelly would be there, and Rice, whatever. I think that maybe helped because he's then got that security of Rice behind him, and then he's got someone like Eza that you can just fire a ball any which way you want at him, and he'll control it and do something with it. So having that team there around him, just better players around him as well. You know, it's not like you're plonking him into a team that all the secondary players are there, and it's all a bit disjointed. So I think it just seemed to be the perfect. I think it was the perfect environment for him in terms of who was around him from our team, who we were playing, and then the way the game unfolded. It just lended itself to him. So I think it's a great start, and something that I think I think again, we'll talk about it much more in the summer, but I think it potentially could solve a problem for next summer. In terms of where are we going to put our money? Do we invest in some player in a foreign league to young to develop, or we've got Lewis Skelly there, and we can chuck all our money on Alvarez, and so on. So I think it's great. Really good.
Just looking at that Mikel Arteta quote that you kind of referenced there, I personally don't think there's anything in it, but do you think there was anything kind of to be taken from his use of the word humble? Because that word humble in Miles Lewis Skelly has certain connotations given that City game last year, and he kind of came in absolutely was flying at left back, scored against City, and then kind of played well for the next few weeks, but then I don't know, at the kind of start of this season, it's very much not been the way. Do you think there was a little bit of an attitude problem in there, or do you think that's just reading too much into it?
No, I think that's reading too much to it. I just think it's a case of just, how should we put it? It's just being able to manage the highs of last year to the lows of this year. Yeah. And I think he may be just saying it generically. So I wouldn't imagine there's a problem. He's like, no, I think he had to wait and be humble. So I think it's more a case of he was humble and realizing, wow, okay, I had that last year and there's a reason for it. Things have changed this year, and I've just got to work and work and work. So I think it's more a case of just sitting there and work, and you'll get rewarded, and you'll eventually get rewarded. That sort of thing. So I wouldn't read too much into it. He doesn't strike me as the type to have maybe cause issues. Look, he also wouldn't be a professional footballer if he wasn't going to Arteta saying, well, what's happening? What's happening with my career? What's going? I've just signed a long contract, sort of thing. But we don't know, so I wouldn't read too much into it. Do you, with this, are you, because of what you saw yesterday, and this is big topic, are you disappointed that we've left it now 4 games to go, that we haven't done this before, that maybe it's a bit frustrating that he hasn't been given that chance before? Because we know Zubimendi, we're talking about him as being the Zubimendi replacement as opposed to a Rice replacement type thing, or take over. Given that Zubimendi has played more minutes than anyone else in the Arsenal team, I think more minutes than anyone's ever played football ever in their life, if you look at the stats. But are you disappointed that we haven't seen this before? Can you sort of understand why it's happened now? I don't know.
It does seem slightly strange, because that was one of the first things I said yesterday when the team lineup came out, because again, back on that point of him kind of playing so well through the youth system in that midfield role, it does seem like we would have tried this before now. I know there's been a couple of games. What was it? There's an FA Cup game, I think, against Wigan.
Wigan.
Yeah, where he was kind of marked down to play in that midfield role, and then Calafiori got injured, so he had to kind of shift to left back. So it might just be a kind of, again, our season, how it's went with injuries and unlucky timings for certain players. It might be a bit of that, but I do think there has been an opportunity to try him there before now, and it's almost like it's got to the most crucial point, and then he's tried it. So I'm like, yeah, because I remember we had this discussion pre-Southampton, I think, and I was like, I would start MLS in midfield, and we were discussing about how it was too late to try that, and I was just so surprised when that came through on the lineup yesterday, to see him starting in midfield, because it was an obvious midfield start when we seen Calafiori at left back, and I was just like, I don't know, maybe there was something to take from that City performance, or maybe more so the Bournemouth performance, in a shift in Arteta's mindset, because it was kind of right after Bournemouth we had that shift to kind of going for it to a certain extent against City. And then in our next Premier League game, we had Newcastle, didn't we? Sorry, but it just seems to be slightly like he's just more willing to try things. I would be fascinated to understand what happened this week, because I know we've kind of discussed turning points and things like that, and we've kind of said multiple times that like the words turning point, it seems like turning points have been used, or we've taken results to be a turning point. And it kind of seems odd that we've beat Newcastle 1-0, but the strongest reaction has... do you know what I mean? Because yesterday just felt open, it felt free, the passing was back, the tempo was back from basically the first whistle. And it's like, is that purely down to lineup? Is that purely back down to having the likes of Saka back and Calafiori? I think a large part of it is. But I don't think it can all be that. Like something, I don't know, maybe they have just realised how good they are, and they were like, do you know what? We've got a massive week ahead of us in the first leg of the Atletico game yesterday, and then the second leg Atletico on Tuesday, and maybe they've just kind of built a bit of confidence from getting out of that bear pit on Wednesday, and they're just like, do you know what? Like this is there for us. We're good enough to take this opportunity if we just believe in ourselves a little bit more, because it felt like they did have a lot more belief in themselves yesterday, and I don't think that's just down to MLS playing in midfield, and then like I said, those other couple of players being back. It did feel other players who'd been kind of slightly missing. Trossard, Gabriel, I guess not really, but Gyökeres, like they've just not had the kind of 2026 or even the past few months that a lot of us would have expected. But then it kind of almost like it was like a light bulb switched on yesterday, and they were all kind of back with their confidence in their first touch. Trossard in particular was doing his feints and then crossing balls in with his left foot, and I was like, it just shows how much a difference like a week or a fortnight can make in football.
It can happen like that. It just confidence, a nice sunny day, the right opposition, just things lining up, and it can be that football can change very quickly, like that. Look, City look terrible, then they have one good Carabao Cup, and then all of a sudden they're flying. So we'll get on to sort of some discussion points around that in a bit. But yeah. So look, and you mentioned, and look, in terms of him not playing there before, Arteta, he seems to be that, and he's a very last resort type stuff. So it does feel a bit like, right, Zubimendi has been like, he's finally he's running on fumes, so I have to do something, sort of thing. So I think it's a combination of factors. But anyway, it's good to see. So, but he wasn't just the only, change in the lineup. So we had Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori. So Calafiori back, Rice, Lewis, Skelly, Eze, and then Trossard, Saka, Gyökeres. So Saka's starting, and Calafiori starting, being out. So what did you make of that lineup over and above Lewis Skelly? What were your thoughts on that when you saw that?
Yeah, I was really excited to see it, because I really wanted to see Saka in the starting lineup ahead of Tuesday. Kind of not every time me and Ben had a chat, he was kind of be like, "Oh, Tuesday's going to be amazing. And I'm like, today's going to be amazing, man. We need to win today. Like we've got an opportunity to go 6 points ahead here with Man City having an incredibly difficult game away at Everton, and I was like, we can bounce into Tuesday, and seeing that lineup come through was like the kind of first bit of a buzz of excitement, because up until then I was kind of just like, I wasn't nervous, but I was slightly apprehensive about how things were going to go, and I know we'll go into like specific players' performances in a little bit, but I was slightly going in expecting a bit of a like that classic European hangover after Wednesday. Like I think.
Our record in between knockout games is terrible. I think we've won 1 in the last 10. We don't have a good result, and I guess you're thinking, oh, is this going to be just more of the same? Another stressful, turgid,
Exactly. And it was like only
dogged
yeah,
performance.
it was a couple of seasons ago where Aston Villa came in. I think it's slightly earlier in the Champions League, but Aston Villa came in between a couple of games against Bayern and kind of ended our Premier League dreams. And it kind of felt like yesterday, although probably Fulham not as strong a side as Villa were back then, it certainly had that kind of air to it, especially after such I think it was quite an emotional game on Wednesday. Like the crowds, I mean, certainly, I mean, you were there, but the crowd coming across on the TV were so loud. You've got all of the histrionics and the play acting from the sidelines with Simeone and his bench, and yeah, to then have that, and then really only kind of 2 days to turn things around and get yourself refocused for a home Premier League tie, where we haven't been playing well. We've been very stodgy. We've been pretty nervous. Like we've been, certainly not the Arsenal that we've kind of expected to see play, especially against the smaller sides. So, I was going into it with a little bit of nerves, and then when I seen the lineup, I was like a bit. It just helped to build a little bit of confidence because you see the players, and it's like player for player, we are. We are better than them, and when you get more quality players on a pitch, invariably you should win. And when I seen the lineup, I was like, that looks as if we're going to play on the front foot and we're going to go for it a lot more, rather than kind of what we've been doing certainly over the past couple of months of kind of keeping it tight and trying to almost play for the margins and play for the set pieces. And I think Bournemouth, especially, Newcastle to a certain extent, and Fulham never really got the opportunity to do it. But I thought they would come in yesterday and kind of try and play for time and take us into the 30th minute at 0-0. And the speed that we started at, the kind of technical accuracy that we had in that first kind of, like I said, even from the first whistle, it just, you could tell that it was a completely different performance that was coming. And I think, for me, it just all started from that lineup.
Yeah, I think it was just nice to see something different. Again, sometimes a change is as good as the rest of the say, or it just changes the mentality a bit. Yeah, Saka coming in, I joked it at the beginning, like, genius masterstroke to have your best player playing. Ooh, you might play well, but this has been our problem. And apparently you're not allowed to say it because it's an excuse, But if you haven't got your best players, guess what? You don't play that great, And if you don't have them on a regular basis, you're gonna struggle. So, and we've said before, it's absolutely incredible that we are still in this position, top of the league in the Champions League semi-final, given that we've had how many times we had to play the lineup of Gyökeres, Madueke, and Martinelli. Now, individual can be good players and all the rest of it. Playing those three every time, every week, you're going to struggle. So I think just it built confidence, but also a couple of things. I think having fresher players at 100% coming in versus having your regulars at 50%, just that freshness, that energy, physically better, mentally better. Maybe technically they're not better, but maybe they get to that ball before another person. Maybe they make better decisions. And I think it was a risk-reward balance between the Champions League second leg, trying to get people up to fitness, trying to get them up to speed. And I think we had that perfect balance. And even the way we played, it's and I'm loving this new role for Rice. We saw it against Atletico. We saw it yesterday. That is a bit deeper. And it means we've got so many more options ahead of him. I think we saw it. When we got Zubi didn't play, but MLS Zubi, so we saw it against Atleti. Zubi being a bit more subtle than Rice in that most. So that when Gyökeres got the penalty against Atletico, is because Zubi and Odegaard played nice little touches with each other around the edge of the box, which Rice would just not do. And that's not to say Rice is no good at it. Play. So I think it just changes dynamic, and actually it turns into a bit more of a 4-2-3-1. Than a 4-3-3, even though it looks like we're lined up, and it's you sort of have Rice and MLS dovetailing, or Rice and Zubimendi, and then you got Eza, Saka and Trossard yesterday, or whoever, and then Gyökeres up front. So I think all that combined, I think it just made for just a bit of freshening up. And I think Calafiori makes a massive difference, and we've said this loads of times. When he started to get injured in December, our attacking prowess fell off a cliff, and that's just how we are. And look, you say, look, why are we relying so much on him? But you can just see what a difference he makes to us yesterday. So just having that, and I was really impressed the fact that his first game in, and just like flying.
Yeah.
Um,
They were all
and
like, they were all like that. Like Calafiori
yeah,
came back and it was like again duck to water. MLS in midfield, duck to water. Like he'd been playing there for the last 10 games. Bukayo Saka, it was almost like Bukayo Saka was back to his pre-hamstring injury,
yeah,
like level of fitness, level of kind of dominance of his fullback. Because this season, the Bukayo Saka we've seen yesterday is not the Bukayo Saka we've necessarily seen across this season. I think he's been good. I think he's just set the bar that high for himself in terms of carrying us to a certain extent that when he doesn't get a goal or an assist, then people kind of go overboard on how ineffective or how bad he is. I think he's still been good this season. There has been a clear drop off, especially statistically. But yesterday it was back on form, and it was almost like like I said, we transported back to. Or teleported back to that pre-Crystal Palace game where he'd done the hamstring injury. And what better time can that come than arguably the biggest 4 weeks and certainly the last 20 years for us.
Let's hope it's not too little too late type stuff though. But yeah, no, he was. So from yesterday, what was your highlight and your low light? I'm sure they'd be pretty minor, the low lights, but yeah, what was your highlight and low light from yesterday?
I think so. For highlights, there's two, and to be honest, like I am the biggest Bukayo Saka fan. I don't know if that comes across, but I think just I absolutely love that player to bits, and to get him back and playing like that, like I said just a couple of seconds ago, to just have him almost come in and hit the ground at 120 mile an hour, to absolutely be roasting his fullback. I know Fulham don't have a huge amount to play for, but they could have came to us and won yesterday, and they'd have still technically kept their hat in the ring for the European places. So it wasn't as if we were playing, ironically, someone like Newcastle the week before, who technically have really little to play for, and then we're in a bad spell themselves. Fulham were a wee bit better than that, and for him to just come in and kind of remind us of what he was like a kind of couple of seasons ago, roasting his fullback, playing those passes, having that attacking kind of dynamism to just go at his fullback. His hold-up play, I thought, was really, really good. His link-up play with Ben White, who I think had a bit of an odd game himself, but I thought, my highlight on the pitch was Bukayo Saka. Off the pitch, it was that, did you see the little video of like the 6 or 7-year-old going around going, he's kind of in his dad's arms, and I just loved that. Like I remember I watched that about 6 or 7 times on the tube out to Heathrow, because I was just like, I think we're all still like that, regardless. I don't know what age the wee guy is.
No, he looked younger there. He's more 5. So yeah, he's more 4-5 type stuff. More 5-year-old. Yeah.
Whether he's like 4 or 5 or like 45 or 55, it just shows like. It just shows in one clip what like football is all about, because you just seen like the passion and the love of like the game on his face, and it just kind of reminds you what football's all about. Because I think we've lost that this year, just because there's so much on the line, there's so much to play for, and there's been a lot of negativity around performances and results and style of play and stuff like that. And it felt like yesterday was a bit of a pressure release, in terms of we got a performance, we got a fair amount of goals, we got a really good day at the Emirates, the crowd were up for it. And it just kind of reminded you why you love the game and why you love this team.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not thinking about, you know, why we're in this position that we are, and we should be well ahead by now, and he's just in the moment. So fair play to him, and we should be more like that, more like that kid. Look, on the Saka point, and I discussed it with Kasiva last week. Just having a fit and firing Saka is so important for this team. Just makes such a difference, and to see that. And look, he had that little cameo. You noted it against Newcastle, him coming on for 15 minutes. You know, just and again, this is not to denigrate Madueke, because Madueke has been important to us, but it is chalk and cheese, you know, and so on. I think we would have had the league sewn up by now if he'd have been more regularly available. You know, and Arteta said on his Achilles, which has been the issue. And look, people have been knocking his performances this season. He's not the Saka. Well, yeah, because he's been playing injured. You know, he said the pain is gone. He felt loose and relaxed, and that was clear to see. And it was a great 45 for him. He walks in at half time, does a mic drop, and then puts his feet up on the bench and ready for Tuesday.
How panicked were you though when you seen that sub? I was
really.
Yeah.
No, I knew it. We're 3-0 up. no, done. We don't have to. If we were 2-0 up, he would have played till 60. But no, I was not worried at all. It was just purely, he's done. I'm done here. There we go. Yeah. there we go, lads. Just finished the game off, and look, yeah. He set up the first goal with brilliant wing play. He linked up with Gyökeres well for the second goal, scoring a very Saka style goal, and it was dangerous the whole time. And so he is massively important for us. So, and before you get to your low light, my highlight would be I like you. I had a couple. Mainly what I just alluded to in the intro, just being at a game and being able to enjoy a game and just have a game that is stress-free. That was just so nice to have. Just, I think we all needed that. I think we just needed that release, because we were all saying, like, if we had another Newcastle, I don't think I could cope. I don't think I could survive it. And that tension and stuff. And yes, if we won 1-0 with a scrappy, we'd take it. But it just builds and builds and builds, and all the rest of it. So I think that was really good. But for me, and I think I've seen it on the socials, I think it came across on TV, the crowd reaction at half time. I've never heard anything like it. It was insane. Is the way the crowd applauded the players at half time. It felt like there was a real sense of belief and a surge in confidence around the stadium. And as just said, it's stark contrast to the recent anxieties, and it was so good and so nice, and just today it was as if like it was after a goal or after the end of a game, and it was just half time. And I don't think it's people getting ahead of themselves. It was a combination of everything. This is who we are. We're back. This is what we can do. And it's like, oh no, we can do this. And it was just that belief there, whether we will or not, I don't know. And it's a moment in time, but it just captured just how everyone feeling it, and just surged all around. And it was just like, wow. And then you become part of it, and it just all crescendos. And I thought that was fantastic, that reaction at half time.
Yeah, that was definitely noticeable, because I was sitting in club level yesterday, and not notorious for being loud. But even around me, the atmosphere was brilliant. Like, the atmosphere was absolutely bouncing, and for a block in club level to be bouncing, that kind of tells you all you really need to know. But it was kind of one of those ones that's kind of there's been that kind of back and forth of, should the fans G up the players, or should the players G up the fans, kind of thing. And there's probably no one answer. It's probably game to game. It's a bit of both. It's one or the other, depending on kind of what's going on. But I think the thing that certainly has been worrying me, and certainly worried me in that first half against Bournemouth, was just how far away we looked from ourselves. We just didn't look confident. We didn't look as if we were sure of what we were doing. We were overthinking everything. We were second and third guessing ourselves for passes. And at the top level, you don't have the time to do that. And I think that first 45 minutes yesterday was just like, it was almost like it was a realization of like, oh no, we now, it's almost like and again, without over indexing it, it was like the players now realise how good they are, and they realise what an opportunity is. And then you just seen that then bred this array of confidence throughout the stands. And it was just so special. I think the goal coming so close to the half time, that Gyökeres' goal, because there was a slight nervousness when Calafiori's goal got disallowed, because you're like, oh, still only 1-0. But then the second came, and then the third came just before half time, and it was just like that. Oof, this is good. We can get
3-0
off.
Yeah, 3-0's game over territory at half time. You'd think, you know, knowing who we are and all the rest of it, okay, you could see dumb stuff happening and get to 3-2 and a bit nervy, but you're not seeing 3-3, and then I think if we needed to, we could go up a level if we had to. So I think I think you're right. That is a very good shout. That third goal, just being that final sort of like icing on the cake. We've done this, and again, maybe it's just a massive sigh of relief. It's just like everyone goes, oh, I can just relax for the second half and put my feet up. That's did you have any lowlights from yesterday's game?
No, not particular. I mean, I think I would have, in an ideal world, you would have liked to get 4 or 5, because then it just puts even more pressure on City, because now City don't need to they've got a much more difficult run of fixtures, and now they don't only need to win them, they need to win them by a few goals now, which they're perfectly capable of doing with the players that they've got. But
I was thinking it's 2-2 nils, which is in the realm of things, isn't that? hard.
But City concede goals. City do
Yeah.
concede goals, and they've got some tough away games at Bournemouth and Everton on Monday. So, I think it would have been ideal to go and get like a fourth or a fifth in that second half. But again, we've got a massive game on Tuesday, and if you gave me 5-0 with an injury to Saka and then him being out for Tuesday, versus a 3-0 and resting Saka at 45, getting Rice off after 60, getting Gyökeres off after 60, and getting them rested up for Tuesday, I would take that every day of the week. So
no, I think for that second half performance, I think we were balancing going for goals with, again, we had Champions League in mind, and playing second gear, don't do anything dumb. Right, if we get a goal, nice, and maybe Gyökeres, it's unfortunate he didn't get his hat-trick. Maybe he should, maybe he shouldn't. In the stadium, I felt it looked an easier chance than it was, and I saw it on TV, and then maybe it wasn't so clear-cut, but that would have been nice. But I found the balance fine. It was perfect looking. And the second half became a game of moments. First half, we were totally in control, dominating, apart from one little section after the disallowed goal, it was all us and so on. So that was just pure, just Arsenal, and eventually the goals will come. The second half was just moments, and there were a couple of moments that we could have maybe got that, but it was all about just game management, just nothing dumb, don't overexert yourself, take players off. So it was a tricky balance, and I sort of did say though, but the best way to ease off would be to score a fourth. So so had the Gyökeres one gone in, and then he might have taken players off and just not put substitutes on, because that sort of thing. But there you go. Okay, look, I had a couple of minor lowlights. Ben White, you mentioned it, I mentioned it. He just had he seemed off it, had an odd game. There was lots of little mistakes, and the crowd were really good. And you see these mistakes, and the crowd actually started singing his name, a bit like when Saliba scored the own goal against Leicester a couple of seasons ago. He kicked them, but it happened quite frequently. It wasn't that one time. It happened quite frequently. The passes going wrong, kicking the ball out, and he's never struck me as a confidence player. He always seemed to be just not confident as in like bravado, but just, he knows his job, he'll do his job, whatever. But it feels like even against Atletico, when he gave away the penalty, he sort of dropped off. And then yesterday he seemed an outlier compared to everyone else. And it seemed to, had we been playing our normal stuff, then he would have fit in really well because everyone's doing it. But yesterday he just seemed a bit of an odd outlier, and it just seems strange, and he just doesn't seem himself. I mean, but he did, attacking wise, did link up with Saka quite well, and all the rest of it at times. But it just stood out, his performance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think that period you're referencing, when the kind of crowd started singing his name, there was a very weird 10 minutes in that first half, wasn't there, where he kind of he tried to run back to almost like play a pass to Raya, but then the Fulham, I think it's Chukwueze on the left, just ran in front of him, and then they were basically in, and then he skited the ball out, like kicked it out, and you were like, what is going on here? But then it was like kind of juxtaposed against them playing some decent stuff going forward and kind of picking up some good spaces. And to be honest, Tabs, I think what we're seeing is just a player on the edge. Like, we're just seeing a player that's physically humped. Like, he just, I'm surprised he stayed on as long as he did yesterday. And maybe that's because Arteta's thinking about just bringing Mosquera in from the start on Tuesday night. But I just looked at that. Some of the passing in the second half, I know he had kind of Madueke in front of him, so not as technically secure as Saka, but some of Ben White's passing wasn't doing Madueke any favours either. And I just think he's just shagged out, to be honest. He's just so tired. And when he is, like kind of what we were saying about overthinking a couple of minutes ago, I think when he's just that slight bit off mentally, and then his concentration might be going, his legs look as if they've certainly gone, and I think that's just kind of what's feeding into it, more than a confidence thing. Because I think I agree with you, that was always the kind of big benefit of Ben White, wasn't it? Because he was famed for not being a football fan, and and it was thought, okay, that's going to mean he doesn't necessarily kind of fall foul of the same confidence issues or pressures that quote unquote normal footballer would. So I think to me it is just fully physical. Well, not fully physical, but like 89%. He's just at the end of his tether, and he's given us all he can.
Yeah, no, it was an outlier, that we saw yesterday. And my other one was the ref was absolutely rubbish yesterday. And I'm not saying for both teams.
Yeah.
And primarily, so many times a Fulham defender all over Vic, so much so that one is literally leapfrogging him. Yeah. And he doesn't give a foul. He said, well, how are you able to use your arms to then leapfrog Victor so he can't get the ball and you don't give a foul? But then also there was that odd moment in the second half where Trossard pushes Wilson. Even Trossard stops saying, are you going to give the foul? And no. And then we have the Gyökeres chance as a result. But he was telling you said at the beginning, you didn't know what you were going to get from him. What was a foul? What wasn't a foul? He should have sent Lukic off. But because that was a pullback is a yellow card. But because he was on a yellow already, he let him off. But that was it. So he should have sent Lukic. But he was, in a game that you're winning 3-0, but he was rubbish for both teams because there was some stuff that we got away with that they got away with, and it's like, what are you doing? And thank God it didn't mean anything. But and Gyökeres, and there's something about Gyökeres that because he's big, they maybe think that he's too lightweight when they're clearly fouling him, and that he doesn't get the free kicks, he's full because if that's Jesus in that position, he's getting the foul every time because he's a small player and they think he's big. But because Gyökeres is a big player, they expect him to be bigger. But Gyökeres' strength is all in the upper body, not the legs, and so that's why he gets ragdolled a bit. Yeah. Because unlike Saka, it's like a dog. I don't know if you've ever had a dog. When a dog does not want to move, doesn't matter how big or small the dog is, it's a bit like they've super glued themselves to the floor. They will not move. And Saka's like that. You can do anything, and his legs will stay planted to the floor. Whereas Gyökeres, you like blow him and he falls over. So I know I'm being joking, but how? Yeah, I don't know. I think you alluded to as well. The referee's performance was bad.
Yeah, and I think that just it just goes to show the value of getting your work done early, because you take the variance of a dodgy refereeing performance out of it. Because I agree, I thought it was a second yellow for Lukic in the midfield, and just some very bizarre decisions. Like even in the second half, I think just before that Trossard one you were referencing, there was a foul on Gyökeres, and I'm like, how is he not? Because that's kind of like immediately in front of where I was sitting, and I'm like, how is he not given that? How's the linesman not given that? I'm like, the guy's just been like basically manhandled off the ball. I'm just like, it was absolutely bizarre performance, but yeah, it's certainly good that it didn't cost us, because if you're maybe at 1-0, then at that point, then we are absolutely losing our minds about that not being a second yellow for Lukic. But the fact that it was 3-0, it meant you could kind of be like, was a second yellow and it was a red, but like it's not a huge thing in the grand scheme of things. I did just think of a second low light actually while you were speaking, just a very short quick one. When Emile Smith-Rowe went down in the kind of 75th, 77th minute, my heart did sink a wee bit, because it's just, it kind of just brought it all together. Like he was a big favourite of mine, and I know he was a big favourite across the fan base, and it was never a quality issue for him at Arsenal. It was a fitness and slight tactical fit, but mostly a fitness thing. He just couldn't stay fit, and I think seeing that, and then the crowd responding to that and kind of singing that, and the Saka song was just a really nice moment, because I think there is a kind of slight link between Fulham and Arsenal, isn't there? Just because of the amount of
Fulham. You mean Arsenal reserves? Yeah.
The amount of players that have went there over the years, and then you see videos of like I don't know what team they were playing, but they were coming back on the bus and they're all watching the Arsenal game.
It was after we beat Tottenham, and it was Sessegnon and Smith-Rowe and Iwobi taking a piss because Arsenal
exactly. It just won again. Yeah, and like Smith-Rowe was one of those players who will always be a fan favourite for Arsenal, and it's just such a shame to see him go down injured, but he got the kind of send off and the ovation that I think he deserves. And like I said, to then tie that up with the Saka and Smith-Rowe song, I thought was a really good moment.
Nice. Yeah, they were coming back from beating Sunderland away, and they were all on the bus, and we'd just beaten Tottenham 4-1. So there we go. So look, in terms of the match itself, 54% possession to us, 46 to them, 3.2 XG to their 0.37. We had 18 shots to their 10, 9 on target to their 1, 6 big chances, 4 big chances missed. So and we had 36 touches in the opposition box to their 12. So again, as we said, back to a very good version of ourselves. Still not the best. There's always room for improvement, but trending in the right direction at the right time. And I think we've sort of spoken a bit both together about before the game, and I was confident, but it was, as we say, it depends on which Arsenal turns up. So you never know. And as we said, in between a Champions League sort of two-legged tie, and this was potentially, it's a must-win game. Goals were nice, 3 points the most important, but it's a bit of a trap game. But I was also confident. I think they had a couple of players missing. They've never won at the Emirates. Their away form against big clubs was poor. So yeah, they were there for the taking. But there were elements that maybe we could slip up, could be a banana skin, and I was hopeful for a good result. But as we all know, hope is poison, isn't it? So. But there we go. So I was hopeful, but anything more in terms of anything else that we can take away from that performance? We've said it's back to the old art. Anything that we can take away and then maybe bring into the Atletico game, and also what it might mean for the rest of the sort of our 3 more Premier League games to go.
No, I think we've covered it pretty well. It was just a fantastic performance on what could have been another potential banana skin of a game. I think after Man City, our job, although more difficult, was incredibly clear. Win all our games, and put ourselves in the best chance for kind of winning this league. And so far we're doing that. Two radically different performances in Newcastle and then in Fulham yesterday. But for that Fulham performance to kind of come when it did, right in between the Atletico games, it's just great, and it's going to build confidence. And I think, we slightly touched on it earlier, but I think the last time I was on with you, Tabs, was right after that City game, and I think we were talking about how much had changed between the City game in the league and the City game in the Carabao Cup, and how much it felt like the wheels were falling off a little bit. And then if you just think back to now compared to Bournemouth, and how low things were after Bournemouth, and how it felt like we were doing it again, and then to sit here now, and certainly last night after a brilliant performance, a great result, and an ability to rest players, it just shows how much can change, because everyone's feeling refreshed, everyone's feeling energetic, everyone's bouncing into a game on Tuesday. I think we'll do well on Tuesday. Everyone will then be bouncing into a game against West Ham next Sunday, and we shouldn't get overconfident. After yesterday, it was a fantastic result, and it was a fantastic performance. But we've got to just kind of not.
It's one game at a time again. One game at a time. That game on.
But it's like, in the sense that I was saying, after City, everything's clear and we shouldn't get too low. The mission's still the same. I don't think we should get too high. We should enjoy it, and we should carry that momentum, as much as it is momentum after kind of one game. We should carry that forward into Tuesday and hopefully build again, like I was saying, into Sunday. But just if things don't go 100% how we think on Tuesday, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're still a good team. Remember that, and just keep chalking those games off one by one.
Yeah, the one thing with regards to City is that this now adds pressure on City. That we're 6 points clear. We've got the four goal difference. We even got one more goal scored, but that'll quickly go depending on what happens with the City games. But I think so. The pressure's on them from that perspective. Rather have points in the bag than having to go and get them. But the other thing is that they've seen an Arsenal before. I said, this Arsenal are bottling it, in inverted commas. This isn't the Arsenal of this is they're struggling to win matches, and all of a sudden they see a strong performance. We're not that one game, that we didn't struggle, and it will give them pause for thought, and so that will add a little bit more pressure. Oh, well, maybe it's going to be harder for us to put the pressure on a team that's potentially finding form, that is getting a bit of confidence, and then maybe it's all falls on City to have to prove themselves, and now to go top of the league, they need to score 5 goals in those two games in hand, sort of thing. So it changes their perspective on things. Just back to that yesterday though. Do you and again, this is why the caveat. How much do you put it down to Fulham not being very good? Apparently they had not quite lasagna gate, but they had a virus in the camp during the week, so they struggled to train. Some players weren't. One player wasn't. Sanderberg wasn't available as a result. So I know. So they weren't the greatest, but we took advantage of that, and also we don't think we allowed them to be good, because also I think you said they needed the win because they're in the fight for the Europe, so they needed a win, but we didn't allow them anything. But and good thing was Silva didn't use any excuse. He just said they weren't good enough. So how much do you put on Fulham not being great for yesterday, or was it just more Arsenal just being too good?
I think it's always a kind of bit of both, isn't it? But I think yesterday in particular was probably like 75% us just being good, 25%. But I don't think if they'd have had Sanderberg yesterday and we would have played that way, they would have had any. It might have been 2-0, might have been 3-1. I don't know. I don't really know Fulham's squad, but I don't think we would have ended up with a different outcome, to be honest. I think, like you said, yes, they weren't that good. Yes, there was extenuating circumstances as to how they arrived at the game yesterday, but I don't like. There's so many times where we've kind of been in similar positions where we've had illnesses and things, and I just always think back to that Brentford game where kind of Carragher and Neville were dancing along the touchline at Brentford when we just had COVID throughout the squad, and it's like you've still got to go out there and do your job, and you've still got to punish them, and it's still 3 points regardless of who you've got, and I think Bukayo Saka playing in that form, like. He would like if he plays like that against Atletico on Tuesday, they'll struggle. So yes, it is a little bit that they weren't good enough, and it was a little bit that they weren't probably as well prepared as they could have been. But I think if we play like that, any team will struggle with us.
Yeah. So in terms of how the game panned out, it was a fast start, and we got 1-0 after 9 minutes. Gyökeres, and I think we win a foul, or Jimenez wins a foul, I think, in his famous way. And what was interesting, instead of pumping in the box, so we're all set up for the Rice cross, and everyone runs across the line, but we take it short, play it out wide to Saka. He beats Jimenez, sits him down, breaks his ankles, and then does a beautiful cross in the box, and Gyökeres' movement pokes him from close range, and it was nice to. That's what we, that's the sort of thing that we signed him for, and it was nice to see that combination of the two. Then we're dominating. Then we have the goal disallowed, and we're thinking, as you said, I said to you, I think we need the second, just because we're always a team that seems to need that second, and it was unfortunate for Calafiori because it was a great header, a great little cross, but then eventually on the 40th minute we do double the lead. Eze plays Gyökeres in down the line. Gyökeres holds it up, and his hold-up play was really good yesterday, and I will touch on Gyökeres in a second. And then Saka comes in and then drills it near post, and I'm thinking, Leno shouldn't be beating his near post, but Saka can go either side, so he can go far post, near post, and in the ground it looked like a hard shot. When you look at it, it was just really accurate and just hard for Leno to get down, and then we kill the game, and this third goal made me laugh because it was. We were playing around with the ball, and then Saka makes this pass across the edge of our box, and you're thinking, oh my God. And had the player got to it, I think it was maybe Jimenez, he would have been clean on goal. He would have been clean to it then, but somehow Gabriel gets to it first, and somehow in his interception or in terms of pass it to Trossard. Trossard then, from middle of his own half, runs through, then crosses it perfectly to Gyökeres, who does a lovely looping header, and he's not known for his header. Did really well. But I did say, I said when Trossard was breaking away, I said to Simon next to me, I said, if we score from this will be ridiculous. Just the way it panned out. Just ridiculous because we get to score from it. We go 3-0 up. Game's over. But what I want to call out, because Gyökeres is involved in all the goal. What did you make of Gyökeres' performance yesterday, because I think did he get man of the match? But he was, we talked about MLS, we talked about Saka, and I think without Saka playing how he did, we don't have that performance. But Gyökeres, I think he had a great game yesterday.
Yeah, he was, and I think he was, that's probably his best performance at the Emirates. I would say I can't think of many more where he's been better than that. Maybe even his best in an Arsenal shirt. But what I was particularly happy about was that it came off the back of a really good performance away against Atletico. I thought he played well on Wednesday, not as well as yesterday, but I thought he played well. He kind of ran the channels again well on Wednesday night. There was that chance he created for Odegaard. Odegaard probably should have done slightly better. But yeah, I thought he was kind of very available. His link-up play was good on Wednesday, and to see him then carry that in, it feels like you're maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a confidence thing with him. Maybe it's a learning the play style, learning the game. Maybe it's a bit about the players. Well, like you said, being a bit of a higher quality and able to find him. Maybe it's a bit more there understanding him and his movements. Maybe it's a little bit of tactics against an opposition. It's probably all of this just kind of slightly feeding into a really good performance from him yesterday. But it was noticeable, his link-up play, like especially for the second like Saka's goal, where he kind of like took the player, because there's so many times this season where we've seen him take a player out and then I've seen him like just run it out of play, or he's missed the pass, or the defender's got in front of him, but he shielded it really well, had the presence to kind of look up. Saka's movement for that second goal, I don't know if you've seen it, by the way. Saka's movement is amazing, because he's kind of like, there's so much space there, and he chooses his moment and when to go into it. He almost like hides behind, is it Robinson there, left back? He hides behind him until the exact opportune moment and then goes. And then it's a really good pass from Gyökeres. And I can't think of too many times this season where we've seen that, but I just I think that was kind of the most obvious example of his link-up play. But there was loads in that first half, and I think in the second half it's not as if he played badly, but I was more than happy for him to just get his deck chair out and his pina colada out and kind of rest for Tuesday. But I think I don't know, I don't ever want to say things like stars are aligning or whatever, but kind of getting Saka back, potentially finding, well, at the very least giving an opportunity for Zubimendi to rest, potentially finding a new position for Rice, hopefully getting Calafiori back for good, fingers crossed, touch wood, getting Gyökeres into a bit of form where we can kind of see the team playing with him. I think for this to happen just with 4 weeks out, I think it could just mean something really, really special. And I think, I don't want to over-index yesterday, but I think we've seen all of these various players, including Declan Rice, come into this Arteta system and take a while to adjust and a while to adapt to what's required, and Eze as well. And it does tend to take like almost a year, like 9 months to a year for them to do that. And if it was just yesterday, I maybe wouldn't say this, but the fact that it was Wednesday and yesterday, maybe it is just kind of that moment that it's slightly clicked in his head, and then he's starting to build confidence, and then now that he's got confidence, the other players have confidence to play into him. Because there's a lot of times where throughout this season where there was a pass on and the players were turning away. And that might be because they themselves were lacking confidence, but I think it's probably more because they were like, he's going to lose the ball. We've seen that stat that's been circulating about like he's like 42nd out of 42 strikers for losing the ball, or kind of like 3 out of every 4 times he doesn't hold on to it. So they're probably thinking, well, I don't want to have to leg it all the way back to my own goal to now defend a transition. But it certainly did feel like on Wednesday and then again yesterday that something slightly has clicked for Gyökeres, which, like I said a couple of seconds ago, if that is the case, then we could be up for a very, very interesting couple of weeks.
Yeah, so what I heard is that you're blaming Arteta that our players aren't able to get into the team for 9 months. So that's what I heard. No, I'm joking.
The manager.
Blame the manager. Arteta out now. Yeah. Right. Anyway, no, look, we know his limitations. We know he isn't at the top level, and there's many games he's not figured. It's like we're carrying him, playing with 10 men at a time. Yeah, you can't fault his endeavour. and it's great to see this performance, and he could have got that hat trick. But yeah. What I said, I think like you, what I liked from Atletico, he's like playing like an old-fashioned number 9. Running the channels, being that target man, just giving the centre backs grief all game. And his hold-up play, it was better. I think, like for the Saka goal, it's very much like akin to what Havertz might do, and then get the run off. But Havertz doesn't make the manoeuvre for the first goal. So that's what he has there. Right time, right place. A real proper centre forwards display, and that's why I was saying it was more of a 4-2-3-1. Yeah, because he's not like he's working with Trossard and Saka. As such, it's like you've got Trossard, Eze, and Saka all working together towards him. And the rising tide raises all ships. So you play with better players. Guess what? You play better. It's just standard stuff. So no, I think he had a really good performance. 2 goals, 1 assist. How can you not knock that? 21 touches, which for him is a lot. 89% passing accuracy, 8 out of 9 again, which he's not around for. And he had all 4 of his shots were on target, which is what you want from a striker. Some they go in, some they don't, but you just having that threat that if you're shooting and they're on target, you'll get goals. And again, it could be things aligning, all happening at the right time. He's asking a big question for the Atletico game, which we'll get to. So we'll see. And then we get onto the second half, and look, the second half, it's all about just resting up, bringing on the subs, and it was always going to be a bit disjointed. You're not going to get that flow. It's just never going to happen, and we lose a bit of that rhythm and stuff. And we're all fine with it. There were a couple of nervy moments. I think there was one you might have missed it. The one at the very end where they broke away that they could have got a goal, which would have put a dampener. But I think we were the ones that had the best chances to get the fourth. There was that Gyökeres chance that we discussed. After Trossard pushed Wilson out of the way, that could have put it away, and then there was the Calafiori again, unlucky with a header from a Madureca corner, and it bounces and it hits the crossbar, having come off Leno's head. So Leno knew nothing about it. So, but yeah, it was a bit unlucky. We make the subs. Rice and Gyökeres come off, Submin and Jesus come on, Eze comes off, Dauman comes on. For a nice little cameo, Mosquera comes on to give White, and look, 3-0. We'll take that all day, and we move on, and that's game 2 of 5 done in the Premier League. But we're talking about how this performance is an outlier, and hopefully what we expect to do. For the first time in 9 games, we scored them more than 1 goal, which which is a bit crazy, but a larger stat. And I know a lot of people hate this and mean nothing, but that's 40 wins, I think, for Arsenal this season, which is more than any Arsenal team has ever done in a season. We've won more games we've won as many games as Man United can play this season, and I know it doesn't mean anything in terms of trophies, but I do think it's a testament to this team, to Arteta, that the levels that we're reaching, and it's every season, and you can't ignore that. And I think it's incredible. And again, with what we're playing with who we've got, we just need to show something for it, and and this is also weird. We've got 4 weeks, and Arteta's either going to be a genius or a fraud, apparently. Which again is too binary, a thing. But again, there's that discussion. You're doing this well, and just maybe 1 or 2 games are going to cost you, and let's hopefully it's not, and fingers crossed. But and I've noticed that the doom mongers have gone a bit quiet after yesterday. But I'm sure they're sitting there in waiting to tell us I told you so. Say that again.
Pitchforks have been sharpened, but they've been left in the cupboard for another week.
Yeah, but let's enjoy this. Let's enjoy the fact that we're trending in the right direction, and it's over to you, City, really, to see what you can do. So, before we move on to your 3-word reviews and then the Atletico game, did want to call out. I said Calafiori. I think he was so important to attack yesterday. He makes us such an attractive team, not just from his looks, but just in terms of how we play. And I thought he was brilliant. He was nominally a left back, but this is what Rice offers. Now at left 8 he would cover Calafiori, but being the defense more at the 6, he's even better placed to cover anyone that goes there, and it gives Calafiori license to be anywhere. I think he was at right, left, centre. Typical performance. He had like 92% pass accuracy, 24 out of 26, 24 out of 26 successful dribbles, 2 out of 3, 4 touches in the opposition box for a left back. And it just gives us another dimension to have to play what we offer. And then also I think we said Trossard had his best game of 2026, and again, if he can come through this in the next few games, assisted the Gyökeres goal, great assist for the Calafiori goal that was offside. Another useful player to have back. What did you make of those 2 performances? I think they were also integral to how we played yesterday.
Yeah, I think you've covered Calafiori excellently there. I don't have anything else to add on that, but I thought I don't know. I've always been one of these guys who's far more of a Trossard stan, if that's what you call it. Like I've absolutely loved Leandro Trossard. Like I've been frustrated by him at times, but I think I'm one of his biggest fans, and I was really happy to see him being back to kind of close to his best yesterday. The only way he could have probably done any better is if he'd have got on the score sheet himself. But some of the link up play between him and Eze in that first half I thought was really, really good. It felt like we were back to, I don't know, like almost riffing, and it wasn't so like our attacks weren't so laboriously designed, and they weren't so methodical and process driven. It felt as though, again, maybe it was because Fulham were slightly offbeat, but it felt like we were kind of capitalising on that with a lot of one-touch play and kind of passes round the corner and kind of inventive things. And I think Trossard's never going to be that physical kind of player that dominates you, but he's got an incredibly intelligent footballing brain. He's got a fantastic first touch, and he's got kind of hips and kind of 2 feet that mean he can go either way. And I think when you combine that with Eze and then you combine that with Saka on the other side, like I thought the way those 3 linked together, and kind of assisted by MLS kind of slightly, because I think that's the other point with MLS is it brought a lot more balance. Like we've talked ad nauseum about not having a left side, and I don't think enough attention, and there is a quality issue there, but I don't think enough attention has been given to the fact that Declan Rice is a left 8 that's right-footed. And I think by having that left-footed MLS in there, not playing the same left 8 role, but it just opened up a lot more access to that side, and I thought Trossard was one of the main beneficiaries of that yesterday, and I thought he had a really good performance. Because again, we've said this now a couple of times today, Tabs, but about things falling into line, and it felt like he got his form back, and I'm like, well, how's he done that? Because what has happened between now and him absolutely stinking the place out a few weeks ago? Like, was it Bournemouth where he couldn't trap the ball and he was running the ball out of play, and it was kind of like, where has Leandro Trossard gone, especially when he'd been playing so well at the end of 2025? And it seemed like he took a step back to that player. So yeah, just absolutely buzzing for a player that I have loved, and I think it is the last few games of him in an Arsenal shirt that we're going to see. So if he can sign off with performances like we know he's capable of, then yeah, I'll be very, very happy.
It could be, again, another fitness thing. He's just playing at 80, 70, 80%, a bit like Saka. It could be that. I mean, one thing from yesterday, they said, one of his stats was he completed 6 take-ons against Fulham, his most ever in a Premier League game, and he completed all of them. So, he was carrying that threat. And on that riffing thing, yeah, it was less of the Arteta by numbers football.
Yeah.
It was more, again, when you got Calafiori in the team, you got Eze in the team, you got Trossard in the team, you got Saka in the team. Yeah, sorry, boss, I've got this. Type stuff. Rip up the the tactics are there, and it's more about shape. And you did notice that sometimes we would wait till we had our rest defense settled before we'd go again. But sometimes it's right, I see him a space, I'm going for it. This is what I'm going to do. And whereas we've seen in the past, we were paralysis by analysis type stuff. Or we were just so hamstrung because I've been told that I have to do X, Y, Z, and if I don't, and then oh my god, but I can see that opportunity there. But this seems to be, again, your better players have the confidence to go, I've got this, Mikel. Whereas if you're one of the lesser players, then maybe you're a bit more, I will be more formulaic. And that was, I think that was obvious yesterday. And one final thing from yesterday's statistic was, and this again shows the importance of Gyökeres. So as much as we've knocked him, he's only the third player to get 20 plus goals in his first season after Thierry Henry and Alexis Sanchez. And so that's 21 goals he's got this season. I think 12 or so in the league. So again, as much as we knock him, and he deserves to be knocked, we would not be here challenging on two fronts without him. So I think it's a great testament to him, but it's an odd one. It doesn't guarantee him anything. But there we go. So we'll look before we get onto your 3-word reviews, just your pod reminder to a quick favor, just to little rating, subscribe on the podcast apps, on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube at the Grove AFC. Really appreciate it, and it does help, and we do notice it. And thank you if you've done it already, and if not, stop listening now, go and do it. It'll take you a minute, and then come back and listen to the rest of the show. Okay, so 3-word reviews that we like to do is to get a bit of a sense of how everyone's feeling post-match in 3 words or less. And it does astound me how many people can't grasp the concept sometimes. But there we go. But yeah, thank you for sending them in. And if I get your name wrong, apologies. I'm sort of terrible at that sort of thing. So anyway, Cheech, who didn't need a reminder, thank you, Cheech, sent through, and we got a lot of these. Well, not a lot of these, because he put Miles Lewis Skelly. So it was one letter, it was one letter away from getting it exactly right. But he goes, Miles Lewis Skelly, I know what you meant. We found him. So 2 3-word reviews, and there was lots of people that came through with that. Hans Lejeune, diazepam free viewing, and that was in reference to last week when me and Kuziba were talking about the chill out pills to get us through games. And that's it. On Threads, Ollie Perry 92, where's this been? ? Yeah. We got an infiltrator, Abdi Hadi 1987, ready to bottle. Yeah, whatever. Astrid Felicialim, we are back. We are for now. Hunt Wofford, Gyökeres plus Saka could be the new. Was it Saka and Emil Smith Rowe? Let's see if we can get a new song going for that one. Carolina Gunner, finally more goals. Yeah, it was nice to see. Abby, Mrs. T, Atletico ain't ready. What else we got? M Row 1, just what's needed. Sam 13 Jaws, Starboy is back, he is. And then what else we got? AJ Aardvark, I couldn't work this one out. I don't know if he's American or apparently he's a Mickey taker. He said, I am pissed. So if he's American, I'm not sure what you're angry about. And if he was pissed, I hope you had a good night. And then we also had Manu Duk, Miles Lewis Skelly, Afiz Kuzurai, Miles Lewis Skelly. So a lot of shouts out to Miles. On TikTok, Matt Emerson, number 1, Starboy statement. It was, we did also had a couple of infiltrators, but I'm not going to read those out. Carlos, Miles Lewis Skelly, and Samster 33 statement was made. And onto the Grove WhatsApp group, get a few of these, and one I didn't understand the reference until I saw a photograph. Anyway, Normie, we are back. Faz, a variation. He said Skelly, Miles Lewis. Thank you. Mads, of course, keep playing MLS. One good game, fine. He's in the team for the rest of the season. That's such an Arsenal fan thing to do. Fraser, Miles Lewis Skelly, Alex Monroe, everything we needed. Correct. Daljit, we back up. Now, I thought he was doing some sort of Yoda speak, or I couldn't work it out. And until someone put a picture of Idris Elba, which I'm assuming it was from, what was that? The Wire. Is I want you to put the word out there that we back up. So thank you for help explaining that to me.
Wow, that was a tough watch trying to watch you put that together.
Yeah, exactly. This is so not me. It's a bit like last week said that'll do, pig, and it needed Kuziva to explain to me that was from Babe the film. I don't know what he's talking about. There we go. So thankfully that. Otherwise, I didn't have a clue what I was really talking about. Anyway, Noel Mickaday was something I can really understand. Really, really good. Yeah, Alistair, let's go, baby. Sasha's ready for Tuesday. I like this one. This was my favourite. fuck off April from Terry, and I'm assuming April the month, not April the female, and Moz on a similar vein, come what may, and Owen, where's that been? So thank you for all those that sent them through, appreciate it, and yeah, everyone was pretty much spot on. Right, we can forget the league. Atletico Madrid are in town. We play them 8:00 Tuesday night, and yes, just like you, rubbing your hands, I'm buzzing for this game. It is a massive opportunity to get to the Champions League final, and the chance to get absolutely spanked by either Bayern Munich or PSG. So, I'm joking, of course. To lose narrowly to a dodgy penalty by a handball. Right, anyway, so what are you looking forward to? I'm not looking forward to as far as...
So you're not going down with the I'm not having you being influenced by the negativity. Stop it right
now. No, the tongue is fairly in cheek. It's a coping mechanism. I've got to laugh at it, otherwise I'm just going to be a nervous wreck. So anyway, what are you looking forward to? Not looking forward to as far as the semi-final is concerned.
Yeah, I am so excited. I think we could be in for. Well, we've had 2/3 of a massive week, and I think we could be in for an absolutely biblical finish to it. I have a sneaky feeling for Moyes' men tomorrow night. I think they could have something for us. Maybe not a win, but I don't know. I've just got something in the back of my head is saying that City are going to drop points, and if that happens, I think every single one of those 60,310, however many seats it is inside the Emirates, which was going to be bouncing and was going to be electric anyway, are just going to be on absolute fire. It's just going to have that bit of added extra. If we do get that result tomorrow, even if we don't, even if City win Tuesday, it's just going to be absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait to get into that early kind of late afternoon London sun, and get along. Are you going to go there for that bus entrance?
No, I'm not 19 years old. So
I will. I am not 19, but I will be there. I'll be there with my flare and my bottle of WD.
Okay. Well, saying that, I did ask my son, who is 19 years old, and he's not fussed. So I don't know. Also I'm working, so I don't think I can get there that early. I'll see it at the 12 pins. Yeah, I'll see it at the 12 pins though. Hopefully. Anyway, so carry on with your looking forward.
No, yes, I think looking.
By the way, I'm just checking the weather. What the weather's going to be like.
Okay, but yeah, looking forward to it. I think we'll get the job done. There was nothing necessarily on Wednesday night that particularly worried me. They've definitely got good quality players. They've definitely got moments players, but I think I'm just really looking forward to what is going to be a historic night in N5. And in terms of not looking forward to, probably just a lot more of their nonsense, to be honest. I mean, we've seen exactly what Simeone was up to in that first leg, and I think they're just going to be up to their old tricks again. So I just really don't want anything silly within that kind of, well, at all, but certainly not in the kind of first 15-20 minutes, because I think this will be the third time we've played them this season. The scoreboard was a bit of a blowout in the first game at the Emirates. They didn't show any. I don't think any of the Arsenal players would have walked off the pitch on Wednesday feeling as though they were anything but the better footballing team. Like, Atleti played well, but I don't think nothing scared me, and I don't think anything would have scared them. So I think Atletico, on the other side of that coin, are going to come in almost feeling like they're the underdog. They're going away for their second leg. They don't have a home leg advantage, or a scoreline from their home leg to sit in with, and they're not going to, and because of that, they're not going to come and play. They're going to kind of do what Bournemouth tried to do in Newcastle. They're going to come and slow it down, win soft fouls, get in amongst our faces, and try and drag us into a scrap. We've seen, what was it? The Atletico groundsmen were trying to keep the grass long, and there was all that sort of stuff. So that kind of, and then Arsenal had to check the level of the grass. I don't quite know what happened there, but like that tells you the level of the mind games that we're kind of already in. And they just don't need any excuse to bring out the classic antics that we associate with Atleti and with Simeone. Like I said, we've seen it in the first leg around the VAR decision, around the walking on the badge, around all that nonsense, and they'll definitely try it again. So I think we'll come to this in a bit, but I think the 11 that we pick has to be able to handle that without getting too drawn in. But yeah, I think just we need a strong ref as well, and I think if we get a strong ref, we'll be okay. But if we don't, then I just having them rolling around the pitch and playing for time and stuff is just going to be absolutely infuriating, which could go itself one of two ways, because if you're infuriated, you aren't nervous, you're angry, and you could actually build the Arsenal fan base against them.
Use that.
Do you know what I mean? And we can use it. But
they won't be at home, so they're not going to have their however many thousands of fans behind them and all the rest of it. So it's going to be very, very hard to generate that atmosphere. So they'll still do that stuff, but they can't generate the same intensity as a result, and have that influence, which it did influence the refs. So they'll try it. But
they can still break the game up and stop the.
But that's fine. But we should be used to that. We've played Newcastle. We've played other teams that have done that against us all the time. Even Fulham tried to do it yesterday by kicking us around the place and all the rest of it. So I think we can use that and say use it as fuel. So the whole grass thing was because you're meant to train and play on a pitch of the same length, and they didn't do that, and they watered only our side of the pitch at half time, which made it more slippy. And even I think Griezmann said, "Oh, we're used to playing on slippery pitches and stuff like that." So, but fuck it, they tried and it didn't work in the end anyway. So it's fine. So I'll start with my not looking forward to. Well, one is not getting to the Champions League final, and and potentially what that does to our season, and I just hope it doesn't. So we're all buoyed, we're all excited, and I just hope it doesn't end up like the last semi-final second leg that we had at the Emirates back in 2008. I can't remember. I got to write it down. Against Man United coming in, we were 1-0 down, but everyone's hopeful. I've still got the flags from that I found on my chair, and we were 2 goals in the first 11 minutes. Park Ji-sung, who just an average player, but just scored annoying goals, and then CR7, they killed the game, killed the atmosphere. It was over after 10 minutes. I think the only funny part was Fletcher getting sent off for giving away a penalty, and he couldn't play in the final. Not that it made any difference. So I don't want any of that. None of the dumb Champions League refereeing and VAR interventions, unless it favours us, of course. So just any of that shit going on. We don't need that. Don't do dumb stuff. We're in a very good position. And look, in terms of looking forward to getting to the Champions League final, I mean, it's the things contrasting to the first leg, because maybe it was because of the European travel, where the game, everything is not always about the game. The game is not quite secondary, but it's just all part of the fun and experience. And also, it's the first leg, so I wasn't that nervous. I was sort of excited because the jeopardy wasn't quite there, and we were never going to be out of it, and so on. But Tuesday will be quite nervy. But I think we'll be buoyed by the performance against Fulham, buoyed by what we did against Madrid. You're right. We've got players coming back. It's going to be one hell of an atmosphere. They're planning stuff with a great tifo. They're doing the coach arrival stuff. We've got nothing to fear. We are the better team. I think we've got the better options on the bench. I think we're the better team. We're at home. They maybe don't travel so well. We have nothing to fear. It's there to be taken. It's an opportunity to get Champions League final, and I'm so looking forward to that. So with that in mind, in terms of how are we going to approach this, and what sort of lineup are we going to put out?
Yeah, I know. What would you do then in terms of, because the obvious kind of key starting point, given how heavy we've went on MLS, is would you continue?
No. This Champions League semi-final, he's played midfield once against a Fulham team who are something. This is a different sort of story. It's good to have the option off the bench, and it's good to have him there. But no, I wouldn't, because they say that, okay. So the big question is, okay. So there's two big points. Right back. I would start Mosquera over Rice, and then left back. Would you bring back Hincapié to maybe just be a bit more defensive solidity, or would you play Calafiori?
That's a great question. Yeah. I think I think there's the two things. I think there's what Arteta will do and what I would do. I think given the fact that Calafiori played the full 90 yesterday, and even though he kind of flagged kind of partially through it, the fact that he didn't come off probably shows us that Arteta is going to play Hincapié, which I've got no concerns about, no qualms about.
No.
Personally,
He was very good against last week. He
he
was like a
was.
real warrior. He's been a real warrior for us the last few games. So yeah,
He has. I think I would, to be honest, like I would play Calafiori. I don't think he's going to, but I think I would. And I agree with you. I would play unless we have some sort of biblical moment and we get Timber back. I think I would play Mosquera at right back, and then I think the kind of rest of I also agree on MLS, not just because it's his first kind of performance in midfield against a kind of more tired Fulham side. I think that's just saying there about the histrionics and everything that Atletico are going to try and come into this game with to try and act as a bit of a leveller. And I think if they did sense a little bit of a weak link in the armour, it might be MLS. They might think they could wind them up. We've seen it a couple of times where MLS has been on, I mean, I think the end of some wrong decisions, but he does seem to always be there or thereabouts with red cards and challenges, and we just don't need that kind of, we don't need him getting an early yellow card, and we don't need that kind of momentum building. So I think he played yesterday so that Zubi could sit down and get kind of freshness in his legs so that he can do that role that he played against them so well on Wednesday, kind of being that bit more of the more kind of protagonist in the midfield while Rice does his job. And then I think the rest of it, I think Martinelli will come back in. What would you do up top if Havertz is fit? Because I know there's a bit of a...
Well, there's two more positions. Well, I agree with you on the Zubi thing as well, because also he played in Spain, he knows them and stuff like that. Yeah. So the next position, before we go to the front three, Odegaard. So Arteta said on Odegaard's fitness, he said, I think he's going to be ready for Tuesday. He's going to do everything he can. We need him, so let's bring him to the pitch. Would you, if he's fit, do you start him in midfield? Which then means Eze on the left, Saka on the right, and then we'll touch on up top. But the domino effect is Odegaard in midfield.
That's a good point, because I never really considered Eze at left wing. I was originally, I think if Saka's fit enough to start, which it sounds as though he will be, and he will start, I would go Eze, Gyökeres, and Trossard or Martinelli. Probably likely going to be Martinelli just because of how many minutes Trossard played yesterday.
So you put Odegaard on the bench. Yeah. Eze in midfield, Saka, Gyökeres, Martinelli, because Martinelli for you. Okay, interesting. I would suggest, I think if Odegaard's fit, he starts. Yeah, and then Eze only started on the bench against Atleti because again he had that potential injury. So we're assuming Eze is fit, so I think he goes Saka, Gyökeres, Eze. So Zubi, Rice, Odegaard, Saka, Gyökeres, Eze. Whereas you're more likely to have Odegaard on the bench, Eze, Saka, Gyökeres, Martinelli. Yeah. Look, who knows? It's such a guessing game at the moment. It's a good one though. I think these are now options based on fitness and availability and what style of game you want to play, what you want to do, what options you want from the bench. Yeah. This could be 120. This could be a 120-minute game. Yeah. Okay. The chances of that happening are quite high, I would suggest. It could be a 120-minute game here, so then you've got to factor it in, So, but I would still go with the strong. You can't think about 100. So I would actually, and also Martinelli is a late option against tiring legs. He's a good option with Havertz. Yeah, I would go Odegaard.
The only thing with Eze on the left is, I don't know if you noticed this yesterday. I mean, again, and I might be massively over-indexing it. And it was only because it was in the first half that I noticed it. It was around like the 30th, 35th minute. One of the coaching staff threw one of those gels to Eze. And like you tend to see though, the kind of energy gels, you tend to see that 65, 70 minutes. It's not uncommon to see that, but it is very uncommon to see it that early. And and any kind of, he was playing really well in that first half, but I think, he himself put his feet up for the second half, and he wasn't as influential. And I don't think that's all because of fitness. It was probably more instruction and don't put yourself in harm's way, but it could also be because of fitness. And I think if you play him on the left, he has to do more. tracking back, especially if he's playing central in a midfield that's got Rice and Zubimendi behind him. I think he's going to have to do less working back, and I think in terms of an approach, I think we'll try to do the same as we did against Fulham, and I think we'll try to start quite quickly. It seems we started slightly quickly and scored early against Newcastle. We started quickly and scored early against Fulham, and I think we'll try and do it again. And I think
and Eze was playing in both those games.
Yeah. So I think
I mean, because I just think if Odegaard's fit, Arteta plays him. So it's not a bad thing to have Eze coming off the bench. But that's I mean, no one is going to like it. If Eze starts on the bench, everyone's going to be bitching and moaning about it. But I could understand it as a really good option off the bench to have, because you don't know how long Odegaard's going to last. Don't know how long the game is. There's an option there. Dauman's great as an experiment. Just to like kill some minutes, just an attacking. Games won, whatever. Champions League semi-final is a different thing. So maybe actually the call is, and if you're saying like getting a gel at 20 minutes, then maybe then start him on the bench. It's fine. It's fine. No one's going to like it. That is 100% sure, and the subtlety and nuance of it and all the rest of it is going to be lost. As you say, like he's our summertime. Currently one of our best players. Why isn't he starting? Odegaard's going to have all the priors of Odegaard. Well, why is he? But it could be then Eze starts and Odegaard off the bench. So one of the two. Maybe you're convincing me that do we start with both of them? That might be. You would start. So Odegaard and Eze.
I would start.
No, you'd have one on the bench, one start. Yeah, okay. Then it's a toss up between what you want to do, and then it's a toss up. No, I think Martinelli over Trossard, because Trossard played the whole game. So we don't know. Either way, I think we're in a good position, because either way we're going to have a very strong team and a very strong bench that can change the course of the game. So and start fast. So with Atletico, look, they won at the weekend. Was it 2-0 away to Valencia, and that was with the luxury of completely rotated 11. Which obviously okay, we didn't have the most stressful of games, but we still didn't do it. And then maybe there's the balance between rhythm and playing and stuff like that versus it in and out. But and they've been doing this for a while. Whether it makes a difference, don't know. Maybe it's that 1% that makes a difference. Don't know. I mean, there's been some nut stats that someone like Alvarez has not played more than 45 minutes in any game in 2026.
Does he not?
No. It's absolutely nuts that he is. And then we had the discussion, in the WhatsApp group, and there's that perennial challenge for Premier League clubs versus clubs on the continent of a certain level, who can rotate so much more than Premier League clubs do due to the respective strengths of leagues and also their position league. Atletico Madrid are different to Bayern and PSG. I mean, Bayern and PSG are winning their leagues easy and stuff like that. Atletico Madrid have nothing to play for. They're going to be in Champions League. They're in fourth. They might get third, but they're not going to go fifth. So they can do that. So for me, it is a massive advantage. There's that other stat for PSG that none of their forwards are in the top 1,000 players for minutes played this season. But again, rhythm versus in and out. And look, that game at the weekend, confidence and minutes for Leo, for Calafiori, for NFS, MLS, it can benefit. And just one more thing before I get your view on this is that Canon Stats did his great stats on just covering Arsenal games and football in general, and they released this thing where it sort of showed over the season, graphs which basically explain the strength of the opposition that you're playing. So the darker the graph, the stronger the team. And then these are there are ratings. I think they're called ELO ratings, all the rest of it. But then also how long the game was competitive for. So the lower the bar meant the game, like ours would have been halfway because it was over at half time. Mm-hmm. Now Arsenal's graph is dark red, high bars, bar one or two. There's whereas if you look at Bayern Munich, and I'm just re-looking in it now, and then you also look at PSG, it's just low bars, light blues and pinks, and it's a great visual representation of just the point we've made. And it even only has to be 1 or 2%. you're running for a ball, you're going to make a challenge, you're 1 second late, you give away a red card instead of getting the ball. For me, it's a huge advantage which just sort of gets swept under the carpet and saying, oh, look how great PSG are because they're running around like blue-ass flies, and oh, look how great, Bayern Munich are because they're doing this, that and the other. Well, of course they are, because they play 5 minutes of football every week. So, yeah, anyway. Yeah, I'm assuming, I think you might agree, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that and the difference it can make?
Oh, well, yeah, it makes a massive difference. Like if we were able to kind of come into a Champions League semi-final having a fully rested Bukayo Saka, a fully rested Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, then yeah, you would take it. But if you're asking me to swap and be a PSG fan where you're bored for 90% of the season till it gets to the Champions League, I wouldn't swap that. I think there is probably a bit more. It's never for the Premier League to have Arsenal and City's interests at heart when they go into Europe, but there probably is slightly more that probably could be done in terms of how the domestic calendar is organised. Like whether, I don't know, we're never going to self-exclude from the Carabao Cup, but I don't know, is there something we can do there to kind of reduce the minutes being played? I guess the obvious one is we just play different teams in it, but to be honest, mate, I wouldn't change. I wouldn't swap positions with a PSG fan. I wouldn't swap positions with a Bayern Munich fan. The Premier League has for decades called itself the best league in the world, and I think it was always kind of flirting with the truth slightly, especially like the late 2000s, early 2010s, when you had the likes of Pep's Barcelona and all the Real Madrid teams, and when Italy was much more of a force. There is no doubt in my mind now that the Premier League is almost a pseudo. What do we call it? What was that? What was it when they try to like buy themselves into the league? Super League. Oh, it's almost like a pseudo Super League because you've got Bournemouth playing people off the pitch. You've got I think if you drop Bournemouth into the Serie A, they'd probably finish like 4th or 5th. Do you know what I mean? But they're 12th for us, and it's like
and look what Palace, Villa, Forest are doing in the European competition. Those are going to be won by English clubs now every season now. And it's just too strong.
Yeah, exactly. And 6 of the top 8 of the Champions League was all English teams, and yeah, I wouldn't swap that. But the other side of that coin is like, it means that the team that's playing 13th or 14th are going to have you in a game. There is probably more we can do in terms of game style and getting games sewn up early. There is probably a little bit there, but there is also a massive part of like Newcastle has Sandro Tonali and Gyökeres, and like there's probably 2 players from Bournemouth's squad that we would take, and there's probably 2 players from Palace's squad that City might take. Well, they just did. They took Guehi. Do you know what I mean? So like you can't have it all, and like one of the drawbacks of having such an intensely competitive league is that we will be slightly more. We will be slightly more jaded when it comes to this part of the season. But the European teams would swap, I would think, because they're having their players picked off by Brentford and by Bournemouth and by Crystal Palace and Everton and stuff. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's just something. It's just a thing we need to live with. And I think we're a better team. We're not technically as physically fit, but I think quality-wise we're much better than them, and I don't expect that it'll come down to physicality tomorrow. I think we'll have enough quality not tomorrow, on Tuesday. I think we'll have enough quality to get through them.
I know. I really like the point. Yeah, you wouldn't swap places with PSG. With Bayern Munich, PSG is like a boring league. So what? Where's the jeopardy? You need a bit of jeopardy for it to be interesting, and there, you just want that enough confidence that we're the better team. But it's not always going to be easy. So you don't want it as hard as this season. But you want that bit of jeopardy and the same. But no, I think that's a fantastic point. There's I wouldn't swap with them.
Yeah.
But it is a valid point this time of the year. We always struggle. We get so far. But then we as in Premier League clubs, and fine, you're going to have the outliers because City won it, but then again, they bought themselves a squad of 22 ridiculous players and the best players in the world at the time. Yada yada yada. De Bruyne and Silva and Rodri, and so on and so on. The 2 Silvers and then Haaland and stuff like that. So look, or whoever they had at the time. So that's fine. But they bought it. And that's an outlier. But every season we get so far, we always do well in the autumn because we're battle hardened, and the European clubs don't give a shit because they just know, just get through and we'll be fine in the latter stages. and it comes. So yeah, we just grind it out, but we just have to have that extra, just something to get through. And I think you're right. Maybe our quality, particularly against Atletico Madrid, I think our quality should tell. I mean, they have good players: Alvarez, Griezmann. How is he still going? And he doesn't. It's not that he's a lazy git. He's not like he's like Harry Kane, who just sort of like commands the D, and that he doesn't run any further than that like 5-yard space. He's everywhere, and Lookman is dangerous. So they have got dangerous players, but I think overall we should have the better team. Over 90, over 120 minutes. I think and they concede goals. That is the one thing they concede. In the Champions League, they've conceded. I think I had something like here. Goals against 15, goals for 17 before last week. So 18. So they concede. They score, but they concede. Yeah. And last week we put them under pressure. We created chances. So they are there to be beaten, but we have to treat them with some respect. And then the variance. So with that in mind, how much are we winning by and when?
I don't know. I feel like this is the most nervous I've ever been to predict a result, because I actually think it'll be relatively comfortable.
Fine, if you say so.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be beautiful? 3-0 at half time, and just rest up for West Ham.
Yeah, well, exactly. A risk taking Declan Rice off in the 55th minute of a Champions League semi because you've got West Ham away. No, I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be Saturday, yesterday levels of comfort. But I think honestly, for a scoreline, I think 3-1, and I think we'll go 3-0 up. And I think, like to your point, they concede a lot of goals. I was just looking through their stats, like 3 against Club Brugge. This 2, over 2 legs, they conceded 5 to Tottenham, and Tottenham are absolutely woeful. They conceded, Barcelona are really good, to be fair. They only conceded 2 to Barca.
PSV, they beat PSV 3-2.
Yeah.
The thing is, that's a win though. So they concede, but they also score. But they conceded 3 against Liverpool.
Yeah, and the key point is they conceded 4 to us in, when was it, September or October? So like they're going to come in knowing that we are the better team, and that's why I was kind of referencing earlier. They're going to try all the dark arts and the histrionics and everything, but I think ultimately they're going to come in knowing that we are much better off at set pieces than they are. We're the better footballing team. They even, like, compared to last week, the fact that we've had a confidence building result yesterday. We've got a few more players back. We've had an ability. Yes, they've rested players, but we've had an ability to rest Zubimendi. I am as confident you can be going into a Champions League semi-final second leg when you haven't won the first leg 4-0. I am relatively, and to be fair, Tabs, this is 2 days out. I will be absolutely shitting bricks by the time it hits 7 o'clock on Tuesday and we're walking to the stadium. But I am confident. I think we'll be there. I think we'll be in Budapest at the end of the month. I'm going 3-1.
Cool. I've got 2-1. Possibly brackets AET, close brackets. I'm not too sure on that one. I hope not. Hopefully with 2-1 beforehand, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's tight. The one thing, I would love to have Mikel Merino for this game. God, he would have been huge, I think, for this game. It's a shame we don't have him for that, but we don't. But yeah, so I'm a bit more cagey 2-1. I'd love your current confidence now, and I'd take your prediction every day. But we'll see. But I think it's an opportunity. The best opportunity we may have for a long, long time. This isn't BSG. This is not Bayern. This is not Barcelona, Real Madrid. I know they're not there, but it's a different level. They'll be nervous as well. They've been Champions League before. But they've never won it. So there's going to be a team that's never won it before. So they'll be nervous. They'll be antsy. They'll know our threat. 4-0 in their minds. The one thing about that 4-0, it was a 13-minute masterclass of football, and so we did them. So it's not like we totally think
who there, was central to the second goal?
Who was central? Martin. Well, I know the second was Martin. Oh, yeah, Lewis Skelly. Yeah, but he was playing because he was playing left back in Champions League. So he was that was from left back. But yes, anyway, not going to get into it. So oh gosh, right. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. So we're going to Budapest. Okay, cool. Well, I just booked more accommodation.
Did you?
Yeah. I've got my flight sorted.
Nice.
So let's see. So
we'll see you there.
There we go. See you there. Well, let's hope so. If not, yeah. Well, anyway, we'll see what happens. Let's hope so. Okay, right. You're getting me all nervous now. It's only Sunday. I need to be taken down a peg or two by watching Tottenham get stuffed by Aston Villa. Hopefully in a few minutes. Right. Anyway, Andy, thank you as always. That was wow. 1 hour 1 hour 43. That was a good one. So appreciate that. Thank you for joining me, and I hope I haven't taken too much of your evening away.
Yeah, not a problem, mate. Always a pleasure, never a chore. And looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday, and looking forward to a historic result and a fantastic night afterwards.
Yes. Yeah, I might even for that one, I might go for a drink afterwards if we're through. I'm driving, so it might just the one. Right. Anyway, thank you. If you made it this far, if you do, look, well, there's no point in telling you now what you should do at the beginning of the pod because it's at the end of the pod. But there we go. Anyway, follow us on Threads, Blue Sky, Insta, TikTok, all the socials at The Grove AFC. Our next pod will be a glorious, joyous, fun-filled, celebratory one on the Wednesday after we dump Atletico out of the Champions League, and we're on our way to Budapest. And if you, as always, if you enjoy what you hear, give us a nice little subscribe, rating, and all that jazz on the podcast apps and on our YouTube channel. So there we go. Thank you for listening. We did what we needed to do versus Fulham, and now we have a huge chance ahead of us, a chance to make the Champions League final. And it's going to take all of us. So until the next time, let's fucking do this, all right? Come on, you Gunners.